All right, Matt.
Sam.
The whole world right now is trying to hire people.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game, is hire as many people as possible. It's very difficult to do. And so the smart companies are training managers how to interview, how to hire their teams to keep up with this volume. I've built a lot of interviewing training in my day for a number of companies. They're all boring. It's like the driest, most boring material possible. And whenever I build it for somebody, I reference what you built 10 years ago now, which to me was a way to make interview training exciting and fun and also teach some of the skills along the way. Talk to me about it. Like, tell people what you built and why it was the thing that I can't get out of my head and I can't recreate anymore.
Well, maybe you can't recreate it because it might be illegal. I don't know.
maybe,
Probably.
maybe that's what made it
They-
so good, though.
this was the 2000 teens. It was a different time. People didn't know. We weren't everybody. You didn't see everybody filming on a corner every day. Yeah, so we were, tasked with creating, hiring, recruiting, training, how to interview, like kind of. But basically, it was like, how do we speed up? How do we make our hiring process better? How do we improve our hiring process? And so, leadership at this brand that we were at, again, I'll whisper it, was Chipotle. I know we always mention everybody Chipotle.
Secret's out. The secret's
Sorry,
out.
sorry. That's where a lot of our stories were. We were there for like a decade. Um, but yeah, we were tasked with doing this at Chipotle, and so the question from leadership was like, well, how are they doing it at Chick-Fil-A? How are they doing it at Panera? How are they doing it at Starbucks? Um, and so, Chipotle stole some Starbucks secrets instead of the other way around. I've heard Starbucks stole something from Chipotle recently. I don't know if
I
anyone's heard on the news.
You're stealing
Um,
something from Chipotle, yeah.
but yeah, so we were asked the question: how are they doing it at Starbucks, Panera, Chick-Fil-A, and some of these other places? And we were like, we don't know. How would we know that? We were like, but we can find out. So we did. We went and we applied for jobs at all these places, and we secretly filmed it. And I feel like going and applying for jobs at your competitor is not that weird. Like, it's pretty common, but secretly filming it and turning it into a short, undercover boss style documentary is probably not as common for people in the training world. But that's what we did. So we went, we secretly filmed it, and we turned it into sort of this, like, yeah, basically an expose, kind of like on what are they doing at these other brands, and we showed it at a conference. So it didn't necessarily become the like long term training per se, but it was like the kickoff of like a training session at a conference where we had a bunch of leaders gathered and talking about recruiting and hiring was one of like the hottest topics at this conference that year. And we showed this at the beginning. What I loved about it is I love that it was edutainment. You and I talk about edutainment all the time and making training and learning fun, making it engaging, making it memorable. This was the very definition of that, right? It was engaging, it was memorable, it was fun, but it was also educational. Like, we got an education about what some of these other brands are doing, and we tried to make it fair, right? We went in at, like, I don't remember the exact details, but we went in at like 2 p.m., like for the over the course of like 3 days, to each of these different places, so that it was always like not peak hour. It was kind of the same time of day. Give people kind of a fair shake, because everybody knows that you're going to get a slightly different experience, if you go to a different time or even if you go to different locations. But yeah, we had varied experiences at the different locations that we went to, these different brands.
Well, and I will never forget when, because we didn't tell anybody that we did this, right? So you're at a conference with 3,000 people and the lights go dark and this video comes on and it's like your typical opening of like, we're going to talk about interviewing and, everyone wants to know. And then we're like, so we went and interviewed, and the gasps from the audience and the like I don't know if they literally leaned forward, but you could tell you had everyone's attention immediately, and the laugh, like they were with you every step of the way, of like, they did what? What did they say? What did they do? And the
Yeah.
like, there was no, like, we're not stealing trade secrets. We didn't do any of that, but it was like, you got the live reactions of our team. It was our team that was the candidates, but you
Yeah.
interviewed them before they went in. You interviewed them after they left the interview to get their thoughts on the process. as to what was going on. And all of that was the like, this is how a candidate feels as they're going through the process, which is just gold when it comes to what's the type of experience we want to create for our brand. But seeing that you had 3,000 people in the palm of your hands for an interview training video, there's nothing like that. No one will ever recreate that, I think.
That's so funny. Yeah, it was definitely fun. And it was like, it was just so funny. It was so awkward. I remember because we filmed it on phones, but we had the person mic'd up. So we got good audio from both them and the person they were talking to. But we had like a couple people just like awkwardly hanging out in the restaurant with like phones, trying to get different angles and like zooming in. And it was very funny, very weird. I will say I'd love to kind of break down the results because I do remember, if I had to say, I think, of course, Chick-Fil-A did the best as far as like the experience.
It was so good.
Yeah, like I remember. So we had different people from our team go in and try it, and the woman who went in and basically said, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. Are you guys hiring?" was kind of the shtick, right? And the guy basically interviewed her on the spot. It was like the operator of that Chick-Fil-A came out and was like, "Yeah, you can fill out this application. You take this." He was like, "But he was like, and I think he got her a drink. He was like, let's sit down. Like, he's like, let's talk." He artfully interviewed her on the spot. I don't know if she got the job. I don't think she followed up. I don't know. I don't think anything came of it. But yeah, he sat down and he asked her about her experience, asked about, what she knows about Chick-fil-A. I don't remember all the questions, but what I do remember is that he took the moment to like make it special, to give her a special experience, and interviewed her on the spot. They did that at Panera too, to a certain extent. I remember the guy kind of basically was like, yeah, like he talked to him at the drink station instead of like sitting down. He offered our guy that came in a drink, and he was like, just kind of chatted him up at the drink station and was like, "Hey, if you're this and this and this, you're going to get the job." And he basically outlined like, here's how you get it. Here's what it takes to make it work here, which I thought was really, really great. Starbucks was, that was the worst one. They basically were like, "Oh, you just have to go apply online." And we went to like a few, we kind of just got the same response. And I recognize that, it might just be who's working that day or something like that. But the whole point for us at our brand at that time was, we don't want anyone to have that kind of experience. We want everyone on our teams to know if someone comes in and says, "Are you hiring?" Like, grab the manager, find a way to get that person. If there's somebody good that comes in, that's taking the initiative to come in and talk to you, like, make that person feel special, give them a dynamic experience, just like you would any guest coming in, and figure out some ways to like talk to them on the spot, and maybe even hire them on the spot if possible.
That's right. I remember the data. Remove the friction from like they're there already. I remember the data coming in. Our heads of recruiting at the time were talking about how they would see these candidates and they would watch them just going from our restaurants, and they would leave. And if they didn't get a job, they would walk right next door to Five Guys. And then they would walk from Five Guys to whatever the next restaurant was, because they were looking for a job. And they weren't applying online, like waiting for resumes to come in. And the whole premise was, if someone's taking the time, like you just said, if they're taking the time to walk into your restaurant and apply for a job, that's the application. They're applying right now. Sit down and interview them. Do it on the spot. You could hire them right now, because if you don't, they're walking right next door and the next person might. Great talent could be literally at your doorstep and you're just letting them walk away.
I remember specifically at one of the places that Stuart, our friend who was one of the guys that went in to apply, he in his post breakdown, he said that he said that this manager literally told him, like, if you don't apply online, you basically don't exist. And he was like, I understood what he meant. I know that he means, like, unfortunately, it'll also go through the online process. He was like, but it was kind of weird to be standing right in front of him and for him to insinuate that I don't exist. And I'm like, yeah, like, it's just interesting to see how, like, every little thing can make a big impact with a candidate. And if someone, again, is that ambitious to come in and talk to people, like, that's a great person. That's someone that potentially you don't want to pass up. But
that's right.
But it was fun. It was fun to make. It was, it did not necessarily live on in continuous training, probably because it wouldn't be allowed to. But it was fun to kind of give people that experience of getting to do that without having to send 3,000 people to go actually do it and experience
exactly
it.
Right.
results. So yeah.
And you think about trying to create something that people remember in a world where there's so much media, there's so much noise. You're trying to train somebody how to interview. They're not going to remember step 12 of your interview guide, but in watching the video that you made or creating that experience, they remembered. I got to create a great experience if somebody comes in interviews. And the fact that they remembered that from a 3-day conference in Las Vegas, what more do you need to say about the impact that it can have if you think about it creatively and do it maybe a little bit differently?
Yeah, that's right. It's all about those results, baby.
It's all about those results. All right, man. Until next time.
Until next time. See you, Sam.